up, family? Welcome back to the third installment of F Words with Friends. My name is Dr. Melissa. Thank you guys for those of you who have been rocking with me all week. This is conversation number 3, and we're not slowing down. I have a feeling tonight is going to be a lot of fun. Um, Today I bring to the stage a another therapist friend of mine. We actually went to grad school together. So we are pushing up on about 20 years of knowing each other. I know. I see y'all should see her face when I said 20. We are pushing up on about 20 years of knowing each other. And at this point, we've kind of been doing life together. We have seen each other's children grow up over the years. Our families know each other. Um, 2 decades of friendship. But tonight, we're going to talk about these F words. We're going to talk about forgiveness and forgetting and all the fun things. So join us, engage us in the chat. Make sure to share this broadcast with others. We definitely want you to be a part of tonight's conversation. If you have a question at any time, put it in the chat because we want to engage with you. Without further ado, I am bringing to the stage Dr. Kia James. What's up, friend?
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I apologize, everybody. We were having a little bit of technical difficulties, but here we are, and we are ready to press on. Kia, I want you to introduce yourself a little bit and tell people about relationship boosters because tonight with forgiveness, I definitely want to make sure we are talking about. So up to this point, we've talked about a lot of parent-child relational dynamics, and we've talked a lot about forgiveness of parent or forgiveness of caregiver, whomever that is, mother, father, or even of course with myself, I've talked about my brother. But tonight I really want to dive into relationships. So tell people about relationship boosters if they don't know already.
So, hey, I'm Dr. Kia. Um, as she shared, I'm a licensed therapist in Maryland, and I'm a co-founder of the Relationship Boosters, where we help people to build healthy relationships without losing yourself in the process. So it's all about learning how to communicate, learning how to have healthy intimacy, that's physical, sexual intimacy, so that you can thrive with your partner. Um, and so, one of the big things that we do, which is actually coming up, is Black Marriage Week, where we help Black couples specifically to connect and love each other, so that they can feel good about the relationship.
Really, really good. And how long have you guys been doing? You've been doing relationship boosters and Black Marriage Week for at least what, 3 or 4 years now?
So the first Marriage Week was like 2019.
Yeah.
So this is the fourth one coming up, and then Relationship Boosters, we've been at it for about 7 years. So
Ooh, get into it.
a little while.
Very good, very good. All right. I'm going in with my opening question, which I've pretty much been asking all my guests. So the question is that I've been starting the evening with is what is it about forgiveness? And for you, I want you to talk from a relationship perspective. What is it about forgiveness that feels like such a dirty word?
um, I would say most people feel like forgiveness means to set yourself up to be hurt again, set yourself up to be taken advantage of, give somebody the benefit of the doubt to the point of risking your own mental health. And so forgiveness sounds horrible because it's like, are you telling me that I need to just get over it and move on, pretend like it never happened? And so that is why I feel like forgiveness is super taboo for a lot of people.
Yeah. I think that's the nail on the head, particularly with unforgiveness in general. I think a lot of people feel like as long as I'm holding you emotionally hostage, you won't have the power to hurt me again.
Mm-hmm.
So as long as I say I don't forgive you, or I don't open my heart back up to forgive you again, or I don't open my heart back up to trust you fully 100%, that allows me some sense of control in our dynamic because perhaps you'll continue to, you know, be the good guy, or continue to, what's the word I'm looking for? The word I keep wanting to say is repent, but that's not what I'm thinking. It's more so about like, I can keep you under my thumb, so to speak, if I act like I don't forgive you.
Right. And make sure that you know that you can't hurt me again.
That part, yes, yeah. But then in the long run, it just winds up keeping people in a place of resentment and
Hmm.
bitterness and mistrust.
Yeah, and I feel like it just keeps a lot of people stuck because now you've prioritized not forgiving this person, then you're giving them all of this energy, centered around protecting yourself, which is like now you can't even live freely because you're so focused on what you need to do to make sure that you're safe. So that at that point, it's like this person is almost like preoccupying or like taking over your life.
Yeah. Listen, how often do you see in counseling couples where some trauma has happened in the relationship? Generally, an infidelity, or maybe it's, something happened, right? And then once the spouse or the partner finds out about it, it's like they become hyper consumed with trying to make sure it never happens again, or trying to investigate every single thing. How often do you see that in your
Oh,
counseling?
that's very high.
That's
That's
par for the
probably
course,
like
right?
80, 75, 80% of people. Like
Yeah,
all
yeah.
into the investigation mode, trying to make sure it never happens. Like you can't control anybody else, first of all.
That
And
part.
all of these things that you're doing, it's not, it's like you're moving, but you're not really going anywhere. It's not really productive activity.
That's a good point. It's like you're doing a lot, but ain't nothing really happening.
Hmm.
Yeah, like you're doing a lot, but there's not a lot happening. I think when someone's been hurt, it's almost like it pushes them to the other side of the spectrum, to be like hypersensitive. Like, how did I miss this? That means I
Hmm.
gotta watch everything. That means I gotta rehash everything. When you were talking to her, maybe he was having an affair with her, or maybe he was having, like, it just causes all of these undue questions in our head that keeps us spiraling, and we'll never truly get to the point of forgiveness.
Right. And so you're worried about her or what the situation versus fixing it, healing and moving forward like, your life.
So that's a good question. But here, let's go there. How often do you see couples rebound after a trauma has happened in the relationship? How often do you see them rebound to the point of healing and restoring a healthy relationship?
Um I see them healing so if we talk about straight up affairs,
Yeah,
typically that is after they've had some level of intervention for a little while.
yeah,
I would say that typically is not the thing that you do independently because there's like a vicious cycle of like letting stuff go and then being re-traumatized because now, there's additional betrayals and there's stuff that's never worked through, so then it becomes like layers upon layers, and so then it becomes even more difficult to peel back and heal from that.
yeah,
I would say like if somebody does get to the point where they're like, you know what, I do need help, and it's like the first time that something's happened and they're being I don't want to say proactive, but they're addressing the situation as
they're
it.
actually like humble and accepting accountability for where they are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I would
yeah,
say that that's much faster and people can move past that. I would say within a year.
yeah.
And of course, when we say move past, I'm not saying like you like,
Like
oh,
you're
like
over it
it's
and never thought
right,
about
you're
it
over
again.
it, it never happens and everything is
Hmm.
great. Like, no,
Hmm.
I can live life and accept what happened and not allow it to hold me hostage.
Yeah, yeah. In those situations when there's been at this point we talk about infidelity, but in these situations when there's been an infidelity, do you notice a pattern in what actually contributes to the forgiveness happening after an infidelity?
I would say being open and willing to rebuild the trust on both parts.
Yeah,
Seeing that the other person is actively doing things differently, considering, you and how things may impact you. Like there has to be, I mean, to be honest, there really needs to be a whole rebuild of the relationship after that. Like you can't just pick up where you left off. So it's rebuilding the friendship and all that kind of stuff. So
Yeah, I've seen some messy stuff where, it's almost like they try to move on and act like it never happened, and that never works.
yeah,
Even
that's
if
a
it works for a short period of time, it doesn't
Mhm.
work in the long
Right.
run. I've seen it where, there's an acknowledgement that something happened, but then the relationship doesn't change moving forward. So a lot of times, whatever happened to, I don't want to say cause the fidelity, the infidelity, but contributed to the infidelity, that
Mhm.
issue was never, the underlying issue was never addressed. And so we wind up back into this, like you said, re-traumatization
Mhm.
of unforgiveness and mistrust all over again. Um,
And I would say that's a major issue. Like
yeah,
the core root issue is never addressed because unfortunately, like cheating or infidelity is usually a symptom of something else. And so if
yeah,
we just address the infidelity, then I mean, we're not talking about all of the things that contributed to it. And,
yeah,
and I think the hard part about getting to that part of what contributed to it is even the person who has been cheated on, there are roles that we all play in a situation. And so that part right there is the part that's hard to deal with or hard to manage. Because then it's like, oh, you trying to say it's my fault? It's like, somebody
yeah.
else's behavior is not your fault. However,
Mm.
there are
But there's
still
some
things
factors. Yes.
that you
I
all
was,
need to do differently, right? In order
yeah.
to ensure that you're protecting your peace in your relationship moving forward.
Yeah. Do you believe once a cheater, always a cheater?
No.
Yeah, I don't
I
believe
can't
that
tell
either.
you how many people I've had that are like, I can't believe I cheated. Like, I don't even know
They feel bad about it, right? They're
they feel,
usually very
even before they're
remorseful.
exposed.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't believe that I would do something. Like, I always talk trash about people who did this.
Hmm.
I think that there's things that people, I definitely don't think once a cheater, always a cheater. But I do think that if you position yourself to think like, you're the one person that it could never happen to, that is a setup for you
Mm,
to be in a situation and go down a slippery slope that you didn't even see coming because you thought you were, special.
above that or whatever.
It's like the after school special. It's like, did you think that you were different than the rest of the humans? You're actually not. I'm
That's
sorry.
good. That's a great point. That's a great point. What are some other areas of relationships that forgiveness comes up or unforgiveness comes up? Not so much in the infidelity realm,
Mhm.
but and we do have some questions coming up in the chat. But while we're going through those questions in the chat, what are some other areas of unforgiveness that you see show up in relationships?
I would say the bigger issues of betrayal, and that could be you told my business to somebody that you weren't supposed to.
Ooh,
Um,
yeah,
we were, I thought we were on the same page, and you did something that wasn't aligned with being on the same page.
yeah.
Uh, I think there's a lot, and I would say those probably come up more frequent than
Than
infidelity.
the infidelities. Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. Yeah, I agree. I think I see a lot of I thought we were doing things one way and then now done it this way, or you keep doing it this way. So
Hmm.
kind of like, we're creatures of habit. And so we say we're gonna do this, but sometimes people fall into their own habits, their individual habits within the
Hmm.
relationship, and it doesn't line up with what you initially agreed to.
Right. Which is
Yeah.
a big deal because that's like a breach of the informal contract that we had.
The
And so, can I
informal
trust
or
you?
formal, if they're
Right.
married, that's formal. that's
Yeah,
that's real. Like
absolutely.
this is writing on paper. Right.
Hmm.
Yeah.
But I guess the thinking of informal, like, we agreed that you would have my back if there was something that happened and I
Yeah.
told you about it. And, I'm telling you about the situation at work and you took my supervisor's side of the story. Like, that's not
Yeah.
how this
Yeah.
goes. Just like we agreed that we would have each other's back and protect each other. And now you're doing something that I feel
And
like is
now
not
you
aligned with that.
now you got me out here. Right now you got me out here like this. That's
Absolutely.
good. That's good. That's good. Let me see what Robin's talking about. Robin says, so their cheating was them looking for something they thought they didn't have. How often do
Yeah,
you see that?
I would say very frequently, or something that isn't present right now. So a lot of people, they are missing something in the relationship. People don't feel comfortable asking. They start having conversations with maybe a friend or a coworker, and now there's some kind of like emotional affair going on because now I have outsourced
Hmm.
my
My
uh,
emotion.
my emotions, or I'm getting attention from this
Yeah.
other person. You don't
Yeah.
have time for me. Like there's a lot of things that come up, but I would say, yeah, they're looking for something that they feel like is missing in the relationship, as opposed to addressing it. um they allow themselves to get it from someplace else, and that's problematic. And that's
Yeah.
why I usually tell people, like, if there's something that you're getting from somebody else and you know that you should be getting that in your relationship, um that's actually a sign that you need to work on some things, and
That's
you need to
already a
let it
flag,
go.
right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's already a flag.
I can't
That's
talk to my
good.
partner. I need to talk to this other person because they get it. They understand better. Well, that's a problem. Okay.
Yeah, listen. Yeah, I need you to say something to the people. Say something. That's good. Um, you mentioned a big word, betrayal. Betrayal in the relationships. Talk to what are some other situations that come up when there's betrayal in the relationships?
um Trying to think, what are some recent things that came up.
Uh-uh.
um I would say not deciding to go to a different church
Ah, that's
and
interesting.
than the initially agreed upon church.
Hmm.
um I would say having, as opposed to dealing with stuff with your partner, you're dealing with it with your mother and your family, as if you know that's supposed to fix our relationship. It's like you betrayed me by sharing my personal business, or by talking to them about it and you not talking to me about it. um
Yeah, that is true. I have seen that where there's, instead of talking to wife, I'm gonna go talk to my mother, or instead of, or I'm talking to my mother about things with my husband, and then it just causes a little rift amongst the extended family, or even talking to the children
mhm.
about, marital issues or parental issues and how that spills over. I was having a conversation today with someone whose husband isn't the healthiest, and he tends to want to berate her in front of the children. Um, and it gets to the point where, I mean, obviously that's not okay. Like,
Mhm.
verbal abuse, name calling, things like that is not okay. And to me, when there's a habitual pattern of something like that, especially because I've been through something like that,
Mhm.
it's almost like, again, unless there's a change of heart, like a complete change of heart and accepting of accountability, that's not the type of relationship that tends to heal. It
Yeah.
doesn't usually get better from there.
Yeah, there definitely has to be a complete change of heart, or a recognition of how your behavior actually lands and impacts. Because sometimes people are so caught up in their own world and what happened with them, that they think that what.
Having a little bit of disruption. Can you hear me, Kia?
Oh, I
Okay, I
can.
hear you now. I hear
So
you.
yeah, so they think that what they're doing is not a big deal,
Yeah,
right? And so they're not changing their behavior because it's not a problem, and
yeah,
you are probably the problem because you're the one who is not being accountable for whatever I'm preaching about or whatever I'm complaining about. So
yeah.
sometimes people have to recognize that the way that they're handling stuff is not going to help them to get the results that they want,
Mm,
or is doing something to their partner that they don't want to. Like, I think I've told somebody in the past, like, your family has, they feel like your behavior is abusive, right?
hmm.
Is that actually how you want them to experience you? Because that's right now is how they're experiencing you. So it's
Yeah,
like people are so caught up in what they feel like is right and wrong, how they see the world, that they just literally are oblivious to the impact of the other person, or minimizing the extent of how their behavior is causing, you know, a ruckus in their household. So I
That's a
think that,
great point. It's almost like people get caught up in either being, being right. People get caught up in being right and feeling justified for what they're doing, to the point where they are, to use your word, oblivious to um, the fallout, the aftermath, how other people are experiencing them.
mm-hmm.
It's like there's a lack of empathy because they feel how they feel. There's so much pain with how they feel.
Yeah, and this is an unrelated topic, but it came to my mind. I don't know if you've seen this video. This woman, she's pretending to be like a corporate director, and she's just like really rude, telling people that they can't have PTO,
No.
and all this kind of like behavior. And it's like, people are like, oh, I know that woman. I know that woman. And I'm just like, and most of the time that woman doesn't know that it's her. Like the woman that woman is in these comments right now. Like,
Yeah.
oh my God, I can't believe, like that's a
Uh-huh.
real thing.
Like they have no idea that they've been that woman too.
Right.
I get it. I get it.
So I see
We
a
have
lot of that in relationships where people they're
so
the
appalled, so
person.
offended, right? So offended by somebody else's behavior, and they don't realize that even in the moment you're being offensive.
Right. Absolutely.
I get it. Yeah. Yes. Because that's the conversation I was having earlier. It's like he was so busy telling her that oh, that was so stupid what you just did. And you're an idiot for doing that. And it's like, but now you're being abusive. Like, so even if I made a poor decision, the response to that is to be, emotionally abusive and to do all that. Like, that's not healthy either. Even if I made a bad decision, that's not how you talk to your partner.
Yeah. And I feel like instead of the going down the route of like even working towards forgiveness, it's like, let me justify bad
Yeah.
behavior.
Yeah.
And actually, I'm not even paying attention to the fact that my behavior is causing me more distress, is
Yeah.
taking me down a rabbit hole that I don't want to go down, because I'm
Yeah.
not paying attention to that. I'm just paying attention to the fact that this is the
You,
point that I'm trying to drive
you
home.
did me wrong, or you
Right.
need to learn this. I get it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
The
We
lesson.
have 3 questions in the chat to roll through. All right. So let's talk about, this is a good dynamic. How does an adult child forgive betrayal from a parent that has passed away but still deals with the betrayal in her heart? That's a great question.
Mm-hmm.
What you think, Dr. Kia?
I would say writing a letter, being able to get what you have to say out, so that you're releasing it. And I know that sometimes people will write it and burn it, or sometimes people, like even in counseling, they'll be able to navigate that conversation with like a therapist, so that you're still able to kind of work through it, even though that parent is not here.
That's good. Yeah. So what you're talking about is the working through process, that
Mm-hmm.
whether the person is physically available or not, that you're just working through the feelings that you have. It's almost like you have to release the feelings from your heart and give those feelings words, make them real, really kind of have that conversation in order to release it from your heart. I think a lot of times when it comes to a child who has been betrayed by a parent, or seen a betrayal in the marriage, it's almost like there's a little girl inside that kind of idolizes or idealizes what the parent is supposed to be, or what the parent
Mm-hmm.
should have done, or what the
Mm-hmm.
could have done, or what the parent should have said, or all of the woulda, coulda, shouldas, right? And at the end of the day, you can't unring the bell.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about this a little bit yesterday with Crystal Curry. It's almost like you have to have compassion for whatever drove that person's decision to do. Like, you have to see them in a human way. You have to have
Absolutely.
compassion for whatever drove them to that decision. Maybe it was substance abuse, maybe it was, sexual abuse, maybe it was, I don't know what the betrayal is. Without knowing specifically what the betrayal is, you still have to release that pain for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the bottom line. A lot of times with forgiveness doesn't usually happen when someone says, "Hey, I apologize. Okay, I forgive."
Right.
Like, it's never that clean and easy. I don't want to say never, but it's usually not that clean and easy. A lot of times we have to find forgiveness whether the person apologizes or not,
Mm-hmm.
whether the person is present or not. So forgiveness isn't even really about the actual person being present. That means you are holding on to the pain in your heart because they didn't say I'm sorry. They'll never say it. Uh, Whether they passed away or they're alive. 9 times out of 10, they never say I'm sorry. Or they say it, but there's still no change of behavior. Do you see that often?
Yeah, I do see people that go through that. Like there are people who apologize and they're just apologizing so you can move on. So it's not like really a real apology.
Yeah.
Um, they don't necessarily, and some people, they don't apologize. They just ask for some butter. Like there's
Right.
there's so many things that that happen, and it is up to us to kind of like release it and let go and recognize, even with a parent, like when we do see them as humans, it's like, okay, their experience was this, and this
Yeah.
may have drove them to behave in certain ways that were
Yeah.
not okay. And so
Yeah.
for me, in not repeating that cycle of behavior, this is what I'm going to do differently. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
working through it that way, as opposed to, because even, some parents, the way that they were raised, they're going to take that they're going to take it to the grave. And even if you
To the
confront them,
grave.
you are
Listen,
like, they feel like you crazy.
our people are good at that. And I hate to overgeneralize, but men are good at that. Men are like, listen, unless you have evidence and you saw me do X, Y, and Z, or you have, the paternity record, it wasn't me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, kind of really staying to that. But so they will take that to the grave. That reminds me of, oh gosh, did you see Kirk Franklin's documentary?
I didn't. I've just seen little clips of his mother. I guess it seemed like she was trying to, he got the paternity test, and basically she's like, that's your daddy, or that's not your daddy. And it's just like, and that's a whole problem too, because back in the day they was doing a whole rack of stuff and nobody was accountable, and
Yeah.
it wasn't easy to find out. And now people is like, let's bust out with this DNA, and then you're gonna still stand on like,
And
no,
still stood on.
that's not, that couldn't be
But what
really.
I saw in that, right? It's like a 30-minute documentary. It's not that long and it's on YouTube, right? But what I saw in it, when I tell you I saw the inner child in him come out, like it was just like, you lied to me again. You lied to me again. It was like he looked like a 10-year-old kid or a 5-year-old kid. Mommy, you lied to me again. And it was like, oh my gosh, like you could just see the pain of a child who really just wanted the truth from his parent. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
here he is, 50 some odd years old, and he still just wanted the truth from his parent. And so I wonder if that's what, where this question came from. It's like, I want them to admit it. Like, I want them to give me that honesty. I want them to give me that truth. And some people will take that truth or that lie to the grave. And so
Absolutely.
that's where forgiveness comes up within yourself. It's like, I have to be at peace with the fact that I'll never get the truth from him,
Mhm.
or I'll never get the truth from my parent. And I just have to live with the truth that I know, and let the rest go.
And I like this. I think she lied to herself so long that she believes it.
I
Absolutely.
absolutely, absolutely. Your lies can absolutely become the truth. Absolutely. Yes. Okay. We got two more questions in the chat. Someone who has been betrayed in the past now has trust issues. How can you get them to see you are not that person from their past? Ooh, child.
That's a big one.
I had to scratch my head on that one. It's a great question. I do have a stance on it. I'm gonna let Dr. Kia go first.
Well, what I would say a lot of times is that people need to do self work, right? In order to get to the point of seeing you as different, they need to recognize that number one, everybody's not the same. They're in a new situation. They need to treat you fairly. They need to give you a fair opportunity. So you can't get them to see anything. You can support them through the process, right? By helping them to know that, hey, I'm here with you. I understand like your history has led to this, and I'm going to be transparent with you about this because I want you to feel safe and comfortable, right? So you can definitely help someone, but you cannot get them to get over it.
You can't get them to anything. Yeah. So that's definitely where I sit with it. So here's my thing when it comes to relationships. Healthy relationships start with healthy individuals.
Absolutely.
And your relationship can only be as healthy as the individuals in it. So if one of the individuals is still living on past trust issues or mistrust issues or past pain, you're bringing that into the current relationship, and it will slowly but surely erode at the current relationship. I'll speak personally. Melissa, me, I have been in relationships in which I was the healthy one, and I tried to be healthy enough for both of us. Oh, as long as I'm consistent and healthy, everything will be fine. He'll see it in time. He'll see it in time. And that didn't work out. That wound up with me absolutely drained. Absolutely drained. I was laughing, Dr. Kia, at that clip that I posted today when I was just trying to prep people for how it was. And you and Carol Ann, the other relationship boosters founder, were having a conversation about resentment and building resentment in the passive. It tickled me so. It tickled me so when you were saying when you're the passive one in the relationship and you're like, okay, I'm gonna let this slide. That's strike one. Okay, I'm gonna let this slide. Strike two. I'm okay. I'm gonna let this. Strike three. When strike three comes, all guns are blazing. You're going to get all these vegetables today. And so I think that's also what happens with trust issues. It's like, okay, I'm going to let this one slide. He went through my phone. Or, oh, I'm going to let this slide. He showed up at my job just to make sure, it wasn't nothing funny going on. Oh, I'll let this one slide. He just, was feeling some kind of way. But at some point, you're going to be like, dude, I need you to listen. You're not going to hold me hostage for something I'm not doing. It's almost that Keisha Cole song. I should have lied. I should have cheated. Like I might as well have been in the club.
And that's a real thing that you don't accuse somebody who doesn't cheat at all of cheating, and now they
like, sure, maybe I should have went to the club. Maybe I should have just gone ahead and went out there in the club.
Absolutely. And not to say it's right, but it's real.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I always go back to healthy relationships come from the healthy people in them. So if someone is bringing those trust issues into the relationship, they're basically holding you hostage for somebody else's mess. And they need to work through that. So I love what you said. I'll support you. Sir, you need to go to counseling. And I support you 100%. How was your session? How did it go? How are you feeling about it? But you can't counsel them through it. Even me. Right. I am not my husband's therapist.
Right.
Absolutely. That's not my job. I've tried to do that. I tried to be my husband's substance abuse counselor back in the day. Ex-husband, right? That's how that worked out. But I say that to say there's times when we try to be something for our spouse or our partner, and it's not our role to be. Sometimes we just need to be wife. Sometimes we just need to be girlfriend. Sometimes we just need to be, their partner in the house. If he needs a therapist, he needs to go take care of that. If he needs a substance abuse counselor, he needs to go take care of that. Like that's his responsibility to show up to the relationship in the healthiest way possible. That's
Absolutely.
good. Yep. Robin was like, yeah, that's exhausting. Absolutely exhausting. Absolutely. All right, let's get to our next question. How do we learn how to trust ourselves when allowing new friendships or relationships into our lives, especially when we thought the last friendship was sent by God, but we heard it wrong? Whoo, child. That's a great question.
But I
That's a
think
great
that
question.
that even goes back to like forgiving yourself, right?
That's good.
Because when you don't forgive yourself, then it's like there's something wrong with your picker, and you just have to like it almost makes it like you can't move into a new situation because
Mm.
you're just bad at it,
Yeah,
right?
you're like, I'm gonna make a mistake, so I'm just bad at it.
Yeah, and then the other thing I would say is learning how to set relationships, be authentic in relationships, set boundaries that are healthy, and be consistent with the boundaries that you're setting, so that one of the other things that we do is we have like a whole manual on like building friendships and weeding people out and weeding people in and paying
Mm.
attention to like what actually works and what works for you and where this person actually falls. Like there are certain people that I know, like we're cool, but we can't be super close. Like
I got you.
that
Yeah.
there's so it's really about paying attention to what works for you, and the closer you get in touch with yourself, and the more you're honest with yourself, the better the relationships actually work.
I think trust is a variable that takes time.
Hmm.
And we live in a microwave society in which we tend to rush beyond things. We try to, 30 days or the 60 days or the 90 days. It's like we try to put these timestamps on things, but I think I think in time everyone's personal habits and behaviors eventually come to the surface of who they are. Like what was once in the dark always comes to the light. So I think when we say, oh, they were sent by God, I think that's also a fallacy in our head often, because we feel like someone was sent by God, and if you believe someone was sent by God, you're more vulnerable and you're more open than what you would possibly be if you just met him at the grocery store and he wasn't quote unquote sent by God. Do you understand what I don't know if I'm articulating this properly. Um, Let me give it a personal example. So there was a point in time where I was dating this guy before I was married. I was dating this guy who I knew in high school. Matter of fact, I knew him from like elementary school actually, when I was very young. And when you meet somebody who you already previously knew, there's a familiarity that kind of moves things forward faster than if you had just met them at the grocery store. So I think when you walk into something as, oh, this person was sent by God, I think you might be giving them too much credit. Just like with this young man, I gave him way too much credit because the person he was as an adult was not the same person I knew when we were in elementary, middle, and high school. And he had been through way too much life and too much stuff that again, I was the healthy one in the relationship and it didn't last very long. So I think when we say, oh, this person was sent by God, I think we're giving way too much credit. And maybe we should even remove that veil, remove the responsibility of them being sent by God, and just this person is in my life. Like it's too much of a fairy tale related to it that allows your heart to be open before it may even need to be ready.
Yeah, I like that
Does that
because
make sense?
it allows you to excuse red flags. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. And there's too many people that use the titles of God, use the there's too many people that misuse God. There's too many people that misuse God and and use it as an opportunity to take advantage of people.
Mm-hmm.
Just because they can pray good, that don't mean he's the one.
Absolutely.
Just
And
because,
then to
you
set up
know,
to put somebody on a pedestal too.
absolutely.
It's a setup in all the way around.
Yep, it's a setup all the way around. So I think she got it. She just put this in the chat. Forgive
Mm-hmm.
ourselves, set healthy boundaries, allow time for trust, remove the veil of them being
Mm-hmm.
sent by God. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I
Yep.
like how you, because people do want things fast, and it's like, and they don't want to put the work in. It's like, okay, so if you're going to move faster than you would typically move, maybe during COVID, like, so people had more intense time with each other, which
Yeah.
then, it may move a little bit faster, but y'all talk to each other every, a couple texting
Yeah.
minimally, like,
Yeah.
how did you think that after 3 weeks that you knew this person? Like,
Yeah.
you knew this person on their best day. What
Yeah.
about on the bad days? What about like how they interact with their family? What
Listen.
about
That's
how
good.
many
And I'll
friends you
tell
got
you
in
that. That's a great point too, because I think it's really important to know people through seasons of life. Like you should see them mad, you should see them when their money is funny, you should see them when the sun is shining, and you should see them in different seasons of life.
Mhm.
When they're grieving, you should see them when when their boss just was fussing at them, or when they got in trouble at work. Like, you should see people through seasons of things in order to see how they really respond to conflict.
Mhm.
I also, one of the red flags from that guy that I was seeing before I was married, one of the red flags was that he did not have a good relationship with his mom, and he told me he hadn't talked to her in like 6 months, and I was like, okay, so eventually you're gonna cut me off like that.
Oh,
Like,
absolutely.
that was honestly the
That's
thought in
real.
my head. The thought in my head was, oh, okay, so that's how you have conflict with people, is you just cut them off. And that's exactly what happened. He, at one point in time, he cut me off out of nowhere, out of the blue. And I listen, I know where I stand. So I never responded. And then like 2 weeks later, he was like, so I cut you off and you didn't call me back. I said, yeah, I don't do that, because if you cut me off, then you don't want to talk to me. And I know how to move on. Like, I know where I stand. You know what I'm saying? But
Mhm.
that's what he was looking for. He was
Right.
looking for me to, kind of come back. Oh my God, what happened? And what did I do? No, sir. I need you, like, I need you to be able to articulate and have conversation with me. So but I remember the moment in my mind where I was like, oh, so this is the way he handles conflict. It's just a matter of time before I'm on the receiving end of that.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And people have a difficult time recognizing that, especially when they try to justify ratchet behavior. It's like, I
Yeah.
know I've been working with people too long to know that if you did that to somebody else, honey,
Oh,
it's coming.
it's
It's just a
coming
matter
my
of
way. It's coming my way. Absolutely. It's coming my way. Yeah, I really like to watch the way that people move, how they interact with other people. Like,
mm-hmm.
one of the things I love about my husband now, we've been together almost 8 years married, 9 years together. And one of the things I love about him is the way that people respond to him. So very early in our relationship, what I noticed is people were protective of him the way that people are protective of me.
Mm.
And people enjoyed him. Like, people were like, oh, you about to date my friend Screws. Like, I gotta talk to you. Like, like, they were really like, he's a good man, and he's a good father, and he's a good guy, and he, like, all the things that people said about him. I was like, oh, okay. Like, people really like him. Like, people really like him as a person, and that said
Mm-hmm.
something to me. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that said something to me. That's good. That's good. If you have any last questions, this is the time to put it in the chat. And this is also the time where I turn the tables on Dr. Kia and see if she has any questions for me about forgiveness. I give you a moment to think about it. Everyone knows that I've kind of been having these F word with conversations, just in preparation of releasing my book. It is available on Amazon. For those of you who have been watching and following me all week long, I hope you was able to cop a copy and maybe tell somebody about it. But it's called Offended for Life, because a lot of times our unforgiveness shows up in ways in our lives where we are rubbing people the wrong way because of the unforgiveness that we are holding on to based on how somebody hurt us once upon a time. And so I'm enjoying these conversations this week. It's been fun. Like, it's been fun to have these conversations. All right, Dr. Kia. So this is your time to put me in the hot seat. You get to ask a question of me about forgiveness or unforgiveness.
So I would just ask, how do you help people through when the offended person is actually the offender and they're dedicated to their role of, just being the victim in the situation?
Oh, so that is probably the most difficult client, because those who have a victim mentality, meaning this person hurt me and then this person hurt me and then this person hurt me, one of the things that I really try to encourage of them is to for them to recognize that they are holding on to stuff that happened like 20 years ago, but they're talking about it and feeling it like it happened today. And so that's one of the things that I think I really come at, like, okay, you're a victim here, you're a victim here, you're a victim here, but you carry now all of this victimization with you in your encounters with people, that you're now sensitive. Like, you see the world through a lens of victimization. Like, you see the world through a lens of who's about to hurt me, or nah, you're not gonna hurt me. It's like they have a chip on their shoulder. Like, they're just waiting for somebody to say something so that they can snap back so fast.
I would agree.
Yeah, you see, just people who are they're just sensitive. That's the way I describe it, is that they have an oversensitivity to interpersonal conflict.
Mm-hmm.
And so, because of things that they experienced in the past, and so now they're taking it out on other people.
Mm-hmm. It's just so hypervigilant that they're blaming.
Exactly. Blame games. And I tell people that too. Like, we can blame game all day long. Like, there's always a reason for you to point the finger at somebody else. But what happens between you and somebody else is 50% of your responsibility. Like, how you show up to their victimization means a lot. So, like, even this guy I was talking about, he could have hung up on me and I could have been like, no, don't do it. And I could have been begging and pleading, right? That's not how I'm showing up.
Mm-hmm.
I can't show up that way. That's just not, it's not who I am. It's not who I desire to be in a relationship. And so when he left, it was like, all right, peace. And then when he called me back, he was just like, were you sad while I was gone? I said, listen, I can't do that with you. Like, like, it's unfortunate. If we're moving forward, we're moving forward, but I'm not going to continue to go back and forth with you. Like, it's just not going to happen. Yep. Yeah. So I think how we show up to encounters, and I think that's the approach I take with people most, is how are you showing up to the encounter? Like, what is it about you that this continues to happen? What is it about you that you're always the victim? What is it about you that, that you're offended? What is it about you? One last question's coming on. Dr. Melissa, do you get triggered after you have gone through a process of forgiveness? Do I get triggered after I have gone through a process of forgiveness? Well, I'm human. I am human. So I would say that there are times when things still kind of rub me the wrong way. I would be more concerned if I was completely numb. Like, completely numb, I would be really concerned. Right. So I still have a heart of compassion. I still have a heart of empathy. I can still look at a situation and feel something. But what I'm not going to do is work harder than you at your stuff. So yes, you can continue to be triggered by things, but I'm not going to work harder than you at your stuff. Yeah. Like, one of the things with my brother, of course, that I talk about heavily in the TED Talk, and I talk about heavily in this book, is I can't work harder at his sobriety than him.
Mm-hmm.
I have zero control over whether he decides to remain sober, like almost zero control. Zero. So so do I Do I feel bad about that? Of course, I feel bad. I wish he was 100% sober. I wish he was. I wish he was. But I have zero control over it. So I'm choosing not to get too involved with what may be contributing to the issue.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Now, when someone's asking, how do you handle the trigger? I just take care of me. When a trigger comes up, or when something, something, let's just say, well, I'll make it personal. So with my brother in particular, he, may call and ask me for some money. Now, what I don't want to do is be overly concerned about what he's going to do with the money. So for me, either I say no, or I figure out a way to give him the money. If he needs money for cigarettes, I might buy him the cigarettes. Or if he says, oh, I need, money for groceries, then I buy him the groceries. So I don't want to be overly concerned with what is at the heart of the issue, but I still have I'm still able to show care and concern for his well-being. So does it still trigger something? Yeah, because it's like, do you really need $20 for this? Like, it causes all of the questions, right? But it's like, okay, $20 for food. It's not going to hurt me to send you $20 worth of groceries, or to send you 20, to send you a box of cigarettes, or to send you, a bus pass. Like, that doesn't hurt me. So I'd rather do that. That's my forgiveness. My branch of forgiveness is, I'm not going to be too concerned with where this is coming from. I'm extending a olive branch of care and concern. And now I can move on with my day.
Yeah. So it's really being comfortable and confident about the decisions that you make, and just feeling good about what you are able to do without overgiving and overdoing it. Like,
Yep. Because I'm really comfortable with navigating what part I'm responsible for, and then what part I'm not.
Absolutely.
Like, I want to react. I don't want to overreact.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't want to, Robin is saying in the chat, find balance. Yeah. So it's finding the balance between where I stop and where you begin. Like, is this my stuff, or is this your stuff? Now, if you ask me for $20 and I cut you out, I got some work to do, right?
Right.
Right. I got some work I need to do on me. That means that's still quite sensitive in me.
Mm-hmm.
That's still something I'm like, oh, dang. Why I'm cussing just because you asked me for $20, right?
Because I done told me myself the whole story about what you about to do with that $20 and what you
exactly.
Yeah,
and I need to write down where you going with it, and I just gave you $20 last week. Like, it can turn into a whole thing, right? But part of me doesn't even want that energy. So staying in the stance of forgiveness allows me to say, okay, let me just give you the $20. And I don't have to wonder anymore about, what's happening with it. Like, I give it up and I pray about it. I said, Lord, I'm going to give you this $20 I'm giving on your behalf. And I'm just going to let it go, Lord. That's your son. You get him. There's nothing I can do about it. If he decides to do whatever he does with it, that's between him and God, because he asked for it under false pretense.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? So I don't have to worry about it.
Right. That's your responsibility.
Not my responsibility. Absolutely. And I think there's a big part of it with forgiveness also, is with forgiveness, there's some parts that you are holding on to, that you are taking responsibility for, that isn't even yours.
Absolutely.
Like going back to the question about the betrayal of a parent. Let's say your father cheated on your mother and you are just so heartbroken over that. It's kind of none of your business. I hate to say that because I know that might hurt a little bit. Like, that might hurt a little bit, right? But it's kind of none of your business that he cheated on your mom. Yes, it impacts you, but it's not, he didn't cheat on you, he cheated on her. Like, that affects him as a husband. It doesn't affect him as a father. Does that make sense? Am I wrong for that? It's like,
I would say it is their business. Like we don't have control, responsibility, none of that. All we can say is the impact, or like, if I look at you differently as a role model, that's how the situation has impacted me. But as far as like, what are you gonna do? Stop him from doing it in the future? Like curse him for, like, you don't have that level of control. That's something that he needs to work through on his own. And
that,
there's
yes, it's almost nothing you can do about it. But here's the thing, and this is where I go back to also, and I mentioned this yesterday. You now have to reconcile in your head that that parent is not the hero you thought they were.
mm,
And you have to see them in their humanity. I think a lot of times what happens in our unforgiveness is we haven't reconciled in our head or in our heart that the humanity of a person. We expected something different. I expected my brother to be big brother. We expect our father not to cheat on our mother. We expect our mother to be a great mother to us, to mother us, to show up for us, to be everything we want to be. We expect our husbands and our wives not to cheat on us. We expect these things. And some of them have been previously discussed, and some of them are just expectations we have in our head. It's almost like the unwritten things, right? But when you go to a path of forgiveness, it's almost like you now have to expect their humanity,
mhm.
and say, okay, I expect that this person was human and did what they did. They made a decision just like I've made dumb decisions, or just made like I've made bad decisions.
Or even recognize they don't have the capacity to do something different. Like,
That part, that this is just, they show you who they are, and you just got to believe that that's who they are,
mhm,
and change the expectations of your heart and your mind.
absolutely.
That's good, Doc. That's good, Doc. I appreciate you for coming on.
This was fun.
It was fun. It was fun. The chat was popping today with all the questions. We had some good ones. We had some good ones. Just the last couple comments, just placing people on pedestals, forgetting that they are only human and we all have flaws.
Mhm.
Absolutely. That, I think, will help us all get to a point of forgiveness. Dr. Kia, how can the people find you?
Um, you can find me on Instagram at relationship_boosters, or our website, therelationshipboosters.com. Um, those are we are on Facebook at the Relationship Boosters, and we have a couple podcast episodes on YouTube at the Relationship Boosters podcast.
Is so Dr. Key and I got together here in North Carolina not too long ago,
Mhm.
and they interviewed me and my husband. And where's
Yes,
that podcast? What's
we're gonna
happening?
be releasing that one soon.
Okay.
So I think it was season 2 that we put that in. So we released season 1.
That's awesome. Well,
Yeah.
let us sister know. I want to share it with
Yeah.
the
Oh,
people.
absolutely. We will keep you posted.
Dr. Kidd, thank you for joining me on tonight. For all of you who have been rocking with me all week long, we've got one more night of forgiveness. Tomorrow, I'll be meeting with Kim Honeycutt. When I tell you, she is a brilliant mind in the area of trauma, mental health ministry, substance abuse. She is such a good friend. I love talking to her. She is just fun to talk to. Our minds just connect in a way that, we have really great fun conversations, just like I've been having all week long. So tomorrow will be no different. Definitely tune in tomorrow at 7, not 8 o'clock, but at 7 tomorrow. We'll be chatting with Kim Honeycutt. So meet me right back here at 7 o'clock tomorrow. Thank you so much for rocking with me. I'll see you tomorrow.